Welcome to the Leeds View podcast. We do these twice a week, along with daily Leeds United news, a transfer wrap up at the weekends. We're available on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast from the audio side of things. And we are currently part of the Sports Social Podcasting Network. Before we get into tonight's podcast, just to give you a little bit of an update on that, on the 10th of August, we will be moving. It's our own little transfer this summer. We're moving away from Sports Social Podcasting Network, and we'll be joining the TalkSport Fan Network, which won't mean anything to anybody else listening or watching this. It won't change anything. It's just a distributor for the podcast, but it will give us access to more places, more visibility, and more, hopefully, more exposure over the next 12 months or so. Again, you might be one day of disruption to the audio. That'll be it. And then it'll be back to normal as per usual. And you won't notice anything different. And if you watch the video, it won't affect you in any way, shape, or form. It's just a distribution network. Delighted to be joined by Andrea Russo of what will be, and looks, at least right now, to be a very busy afternoon at Elland Road, as videos have just emerged of James Trafford getting photographs taken. So we would imagine he'll be announced as a Leeds United player anytime soon. Medical has been passed. And at the time of recording, which is 5 o'clock at the moment, hasn't been announced officially. Leeds do love a 7:45 announcement. So it'll likely come out around that time. So this will be out around that time, but recorded well beforehand. Andrea, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me, mate.
Thanks, mate. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Yeah, and especially on this day, with a lot of with a very good news
signing day
on the way. Yeah, a good signing day. So people can come down. Come the senses finally. Especially an elite signing, like we were saying before going into the podcast. Elite signing. Finally, a top goalkeeper. I haven't been shy in saying that for me, he's going to be England number one after Pickford, 100%. I'd have Anderson, miles better than Anderson for me. He's honestly, if he wasn't gonna stay at City, I would have considered him to move maybe to a top side, maybe in Spain, in Germany. But fair play to us, honestly. Maybe the goalkeeper to take us to Europe in the future. We'll see him play with a Leeds shirt in the Europe, because it's a sign that screams ambition. Of course, we need a lot more. It's not over. The job is not done yet. But that's proper statement for me. I'm really buzzing about this signing, honestly, because James Trafford is better than Old Trafford.
I was waiting on something like that. Yeah, it is. I mean, Adam Pope said at the start of the summer when he was on the podcast, Leeds need an elite level goalkeeper, and James Trafford is very much an elite level goalkeeper. He's also a goalkeeper with a higher ceiling, and he's also a goalkeeper that can grow with this side, as Daniel Farke has been speaking as well this week about what Leeds need to establish themselves as a Premier League side. And an elite number one was top of his shopping list, and he's gotten that. Now, he said not that long ago, Andrea, I want to be part of a club competing for things. He wants a club to match his ambition. Pride Morate said, Daniel Farke doesn't need to sell that to us. We are all on the same page. And so far this summer, Harry Wilson's come in on a free transfer. Tariq Muharramovic has come in for £34 million. And now James Trafford has come in for a club record £40 million, or up to £40 million, including add-ons as well, included in all of that. And as we know, for anyone who's watched the SCR streams, it's not necessarily 40 million this season. It's broken up over a couple of years, so there is still extra money to spend. But it's a fairly ambitious start to a summer where Leeds have dropped, on paper, £74 million on two players. They brought in 3 overall, and possibly 4 more to come between now and the close of the window. So it's fairly ambitious so far.
Yeah, it's very, very ambitious, because on paper we've assembled a very strong squad, especially on the foundations of last season. Of course, we've lost Pascal Strauch, so I don't have to pretend to be his doppelganger anymore. That's why I've also shaved the beard, keep the moustache.
The schmig is gone.
Yeah. Now we'll have to sign. We'll have to sign. I know that Pavel Schulz has this
bit of a goatee
hairline. Yeah. I need to work on that. Of course, I will need to dye my hair in that case.
I mean, I was going to say, if you dye your hair a bit of blonde, I mean, Muharramovic isn't a million miles off Strauch either, so you might get away with it.
Yeah. No, but it's ambition, and hopefully not no red surprise. But to me, it's even more successful the fact that if I look at what has of course come out in terms of the details, of the Trafford deal is that I haven't read still, maybe, hopefully not a surprise, like I've just said, there's no buyback clause for Man City. And that's a big point. Hopefully no surprise in that. But if I were Man City, honestly, I would have inserted that because I think, like I said, the goalkeeper is going to be the best GK, the best English GK in the coming years. And having him on a permanent, we know, no Nico Pass, like Nico Pass, of course, moved to Coma from Real
Yeah.
Madrid. Now they have this buyback clause every once in a while, and it has different fees, that they can exercise in different off seasons, I think it shows even more the fact that we have really convinced Trafford to move to Elland Road because, of course, like I said in the past, when he moved to Man City, I think in his mind it was going to be the number one. Then what happened with Donnarumma and Luis Enrique? Luis Enrique wanted a new GK because he didn't trust Donnarumma anymore. So they brought in Chevalier at PSG, and Donnarumma wanted to leave, of course, because they basically froze him out, and Pep wanted him. So Trafford find himself in a situation that he didn't want to be in, because after a good season with Burnley, it would have been beneficial for him, honestly, returning to Man City and then going out on loan to Burnley. It would have been better for him eventually. At least he would have played week in and week out last season.
Yeah.
But now, honestly, there's been a lot of comparison. I can feel a lot of sense into that with when we signed Nigel Martin, honestly.
Yeah, same.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, just one piece of the crown, because all the others I really like. Wilson, Lafree is a very good deal. Because, of course, he had other offers. It was very well liked after his the best season he's had in the Premier League, last season. And Moremovic, I don't have to say a lot, because I remember when I found that message that I sent on the WhatsApp group of the charity match, when we were talking about the possible centre backs in June 2025, and I said the one going under the radar in Italy is Moremovic. They just got promoted from Serie B to Serie A. But by then, I just thought there's no way now because he's having a great season. Of course, in the later weeks, so there's no way you get him for cheap. He will move to a top European club, and eventually they tried to sign him. Juve, Inter were in for him one time, during the window, but they didn't want to spend the heavy money that Sassuolo were asking. And look the power of the Premier League. We were able to get him despite not playing in Europe. But what I see, Jerry, is all these players would have been sold, a project to get where we want to be. Because the dimension of the club, especially with the new stadium, the renewed stadium coming on the way, it would be to get to the next step, or improve the position. But I think in reality, under the carpet, the target so far, if we get the signings that we want to get, would be try to get into maybe Conference League, something like 8, 9, around that. Yeah, I'm bold with that, but I feel very, very. I feel the ambition this off season. Honestly, I really feel the ambition of the club.
Yeah, I still have a sneaky feeling they'll do one more chunky size transfer, but before the window actually shuts. And they said at the start of the window, it'll be a strategic window, it'll be a patient window, and they've taken their time. We've lost out on a couple. Obviously, SB popped up and then went away again as once Real Madrid got involved in that one. It was dead to everybody else. Was an interesting one, but they've been putting feelers out more than making moves for people. It's a case of sussing out the situation, seeing where the land lies. If we make a move now, do we end up getting in a bidding war? Do we lose out on the player? If we stay back and just wait and watch the market, can we nip in then and maybe get a player at the right time, which has worked very well for Muharramovic. The first game I saw him, and we talked about this earlier on, and we said we won't go into the matches in too much detail because they're preseason games and you shouldn't read too much into preseason. It's about integrating players. It's about fitness and conditioning and minutes in the legs. Yeah. But to see him in the first match, dropping his shoulder and rolling around players from the centre-back position, it was 2 or 3 times where I just out loud went, oh, Jesus, what a player. What have we got? They're getting a ball player. We've gone from having one of, and I'll be very positive on Pascal Stroke, one of the best ball-playing centre-backs we've got at the club in Stroke, to a player who looks incredibly comfortable with the ball at his feet, dominant in the air, can pick a pass, but doesn't seem to get flustered when there's pressure on. When Leeds were under a high press from Liverpool in that first half and Sunderland in the game against them, and dealing with Brian Brobby as well, who's a big physical lad, didn't seem to bother him in the slightest.
Yeah, it's I've seen him when he was playing in the second tier in Italy, of course, because when Reggiano was Was playing in the second tier, Sassuolo had been relegated, so they signed him from the under-23 of Juve. From Juve, he was playing in the under-23s in the third tier, because they play in the third tier, the under-23s of Juve.
Yeah.
So when I seen him play in that second tier, I said, there's a player there. There's a player there. Great signing by Sassuolo. Eventually, last season, it was great. He didn't start consistently. I remember seeing an interview with Fabio Grosso, the manager of Sassuolo at the time. Now he's moved to Fiorentina. And he said, Tariq was struggling at the start. So he came to my office and asked, what am I doing wrong? Because he wanted to learn. And he listened. And after that, he never looked back. And that's what he did. That's what he did, especially in March, when he absolutely... It was immense against Italy in that final. That playoff final it was immense. For me, made the comparison, I think I made it also last time. For me, the comparison is if he has a great season, I think we might see someone coming like Real Madrid did with Dinhausen at Bournemouth, honestly. Because for me, the player is... I'm lucky and I'm very happy that he signed for Leeds, but I think that he's way above our level already, honestly. For me, he's a player that should be playing in the UCL.
Right.
Maybe
he will. Maybe he will.
Yeah,
with us. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe he will. Yeah. Hopefully with us. But yeah, he's a player that maybe with the only thing that he has different to Pascal, of course, he has more like you pointed out, more consistent in aerial duels, more physical. He's more aggressive, of course. Pascal used to be aggressive, but he grew towards his later years at Leeds. But
he could step out of a tackle, Pascal, to be fair as well. There were 50-50s where you were looking at stroke, where he maybe didn't go in to get hurt, put it that way, and you need to be able to put your body in a place where it's going to get hurt if you're a centre-back in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Tariq does that, absolutely. Tariq does that, and his vision is very good. His composure, especially, because when he's in possession, you can see him, he's very still, he's always composed, he always has the control of his body, always balanced. The difference with Pascal is Pascal used to be better, I think, in progressing with the ball because of different pace. Yeah, it could, like Rodon does, basically. I think Tariq can grow into that, but right now he used to play, especially because he used to play in a back four, with Sassuolo and Bosnia, of course, with him and Katic, usually. So it will be first time consistently playing a back three. Of course, Sassuolo in possession, they used to... the two centre-backs used to be wide-backs with Nemanja Matic. I'm sure you remember him, used to play for Man United and Chelsea, dropping back as a centre-half to start possession. So it was some kind of a back three in possession, but this is a typical centre-back three, with Biol and Rodon.
I was going to say, you'll see that with Ethan Ampadu dropping in as well and filling that gap when Rodon goes down the right-hand side. Leeds will split the defence and you'll see Biol and Ampadu sit in there. So again, you'll get a chance to push on a little bit.
Yeah, and there's room for improvement, like I said, there. One thing that I like about him too is the fact that he's fearless. His mentality is elite. Like I just pointed out, if he will work 100% to improve, but he's someone that's, from what I've heard, because of course it's sort of next door basically to where I am. I also know people that work there too. I know that he's a very hard worker, He's someone that learns faster, So I'm sure that it will be a player that Leeds fans will really like. And they will adjust to play now in a traditional back three with three centre-backs. But for of course, like you pointed out, Jer, we transformed to in possession. So, yeah, I think it will be a learning experience. But so far, the signs are great, especially looking at the fact that he returned later because Bosnia, he was at the World Cup with Bosnia. But yeah, absolutely great signing for me. We'll talk about it, I think, in the coming years. Like, remember when we signed him, and then hopefully stays for more years.
This is the opposite to missing out on Vardiol. This is actually getting one of the targets before they end up going on a bit of world-class player. Yeah,
exactly. We're trying to turn into Yugoslavia at the back, by the way. Jakabio, Tariq Morenovic. We just need, I don't know, Nikola Milenkovic, someone from Serbia, from Montenegro, from Slovenia, another one, Croatia. We're trying to recreate Yugoslavia at the back.
My dad used to always say about Yugoslavia when I was a kid growing up. Yugoslavia were the Brazil of European football. They played with style. Yeah. So, why not? Why not try and get that in?
Yeah.
It's been an interesting preseason so far. We've had the tournament in America. And the less said about the pitch against Liverpool, the better. And we still waiting to hear what the update on Gabby Goodmanson's potential hamstring injury is, which will bring us to recruitment when we talk about that, because left back cover is desperately going to be needed there now. But we're not going into the games in too much detail, but we saw a shifting of systems. So the question coming into preseason was, how much is Daniel Farke itching to get back to 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3? And I thought he's going to want it because he talks a lot of football philosophy and DNA. And I know as a coach myself, I would much rather play a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1 if I can. Ideally, I'll try and get players to play those systems. So that's my philosophy as a coach would be, they're my systems that I'm comfortable and I know inside out and front. He started the game against Wrexham with the 3-4-2-1. It seemed to be working pretty well. And he flipped it the second half to the 4-3-3 and was like, there it is. The issue for me was we saw a return, not just to a system, we also saw a return to a reduced tempo, a heavy possession game, very little chance creation in that second half. And then we went into the Sunderland game and he decided, nope, no 4-3-3, 3-4-2-1. Leeds will play out from the back with that 4 and get the extra men involved in the attack, but they'll defend in a 3 and a 5. And then against Liverpool, we saw the exact same thing. And we saw two very different performances in our Wrexham game. And maybe just a little indicator for Daniel that 4-3-3 could be there some stage down the line when you've got all of the players that you have that are capable of playing at this level with that formation. But in the short term, you've got a pretty decent squad that are very comfortable playing a 3-4-2-1 right now. What did you think about it?
I agree with you. I think we should go with the back three because the squad look comfortable with that. They know the mechanism. They have gelled. They've gelled the formation. They got used to the formation, and it transformed our season last year. So why not? Why change that? But looking at the way transfer market went, Moramovic, like I said, used to play in a back 4. Brandt would have been the number 10, I think.
10.
The number 10. Yeah. So I think in his mind, Farke still wants to give a try to the 4-2-3-1. Why not? But
or have it as an option.
Players for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As an option too, 100%. But as a consistent from the start, you need to have the right players for the way you want to play football, because we've seen now that one of the weaknesses in the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, when Aronson was moving centrally, like in the Championship, the weakness is in the middle, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I remember certain games, we all have some players that can distribute the ball, where we don't have some runners, box crashers, box-to-box players. Because he tried to make Stark and Longstaff play that way, but we had no balance because all the 3 midfielders were going up, at least the 2 like Longstaff and Stark in the early stages of the season. But when they needed to track back down, they were facing players with a better pace. Maybe they were playing with a 10, the other team. So they always had one more man behind our number 6. Yeah, exactly. So you need if you want to return to the 4-2-3-1. I don't know why my light is going off, by the way. We need to. Yeah, exactly. I don't know why. At times, I have to do something like this because the light goes away. But we need to sign another number 8 runner, and if we want to go with that, apart from the number 10. But ideally, I agree with you. 3-4-2-1, I think works, especially if you can get a player that can play both, maybe on the right and in the 10. So if you want to switch in game, you can introduce maybe another winger and play him and switch him in the 10, something like that, very pragmatic, like Lip used to do. Lip used to change the positions, of the players with Italy and you were very fluid, in games, they used to be very versatile in terms of formations during the game, because the Dutch have taught us, that these formations, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, are formations on paper. They can be changed. They can be changed.
One tiny tweak, and then they're different systems straight away. Like your 4-3-3s, if you've got a flat 3 midfield, 2 sitting off and 1 slightly in front, you want to make that a 4-2-3-1. You push up the 2, drop off, and push the middle of the 3 into the 10 position. 4-2-3-1. You just tuck the wingers in a little bit. It's a very small tweak. Change the system to be more attacking, and then you can also drop it into a 5 as well if you need to as well. Dropping 1 in and dropping 2 on the outside. So it's got flexibility. It's a good system. Like, that's what's good about the 4-2-3-1 is it's a flexible system, but you do need to have players that are comfortable being fluid and moving around roles. So there is, and Leeds are probably a little bit too rigid when they do play with that system based on the players they've got. There isn't that crossing over. There isn't that moving of positions. There isn't someone else filling in when if a long staff breaks forward, you don't necessarily see somebody else tuck in to cover that position, which leaves gaps. So yeah, they need players that are probably more natural to that.
I want to add something also about the 43. You know, I just finished reading this one of Filippi, you know, about the Juve 1996. You know, and he used to play in a 43 eventually, but he had Del Piero, Ravanelli, and Vialli basically up front. You know, and in the middle he had Deschamps, Conte, maybe Jugovic, Di Livio. You know, there were plenty of on midfielders, but as you can see, Deschamps gives you balance. Then we had Jugovic, who was a very conservative, balanced player, you know, in the middle.
You're sitting player.
But yeah, 3 attacking players, you know, and also Conte, that is a player that could have made runs, you know, from the middle. We don't have that. If you look at our 3, because Stack can do that, but if he has cover behind him, if he has a balanced system around him, same for Tanaka, same for Longstaff. So I've come to the conclusion for me that these players are made for 3-4-2-1, 3-5-2. They will struggle in a 43 if they don't have the proper runners, you know, the ones that can run box to box and cover also defensively for them. There's a saying in Italy, you know, a midfielder that runs for 2 players. So there's a midfielder that when there's probably a playmaker, you know, as a low playmaker, you have someone that makes the runs for you next to him, you know.
Yeah. But that's, I suppose, in one sense, I mean, Brendan Aronson gets a lot of stick for just running around an awful lot, but if you look at how Leeds play, the running that he does in that inside forward role nearly allows Dominic Calvert-Lewin to not have to do that running and pressing because he'll do that for him. So Leeds are obviously looking for more of those type of players in there as well, which Brandt, funnily enough, wouldn't have actually been that. He would have been your luxury player and you would have needed somebody else probably to do the running for him. So it's a sacrifice. If you want that ball playing creative player, but he hasn't got necessarily the legs to do the running, then you've got to make sure you've got players around that can do that, and you've got to change your whole philosophy then. And Farkes talked a lot about philosophy and DNA in his interview with Men in Blazers, which is a really interesting interview, really good insight. He's also mapped out, Andrea, where he sees Leeds going in the next couple of years. He thinks one more season, maybe lower mid-half table, so progression from this year, but not jumping necessarily into the top half. Next season, then getting into that top half finish positions, top 10. And then the season after that, and hopefully the stadium is complete by that stage, Leeds pushing to be a European club and then consistently staying in Europe and having it as a multi-year plan. It's good to have that in place. It's good to have a structured kind of step-by-step approach and not just, you know, blowing it all in one season and hope. I'm putting the silverware and the family jewels on the line in order to try and get into European football. We spoke to Stephen Carlisle on the channel about SCR, and he thinks some of the clubs that have gotten into Europe this year, the likes of Sunderland, I think it's Bournemouth or Brighton got in. I keep forgetting which one of them it is.
Conference
might
Brighton
actually
and Bournemouth Europa League.
Yeah, they might struggle this season because of the PS or the SCR situation that they find themselves in. So it's about walking before you can run, and definitely before you can sprint. So he seems to be very clear, step by step, slow progression, a step on this season from last year, which I think we'd all be fine with as well, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. I think if we made the right signings, we might follow in the steps maybe of Brighton, of Bournemouth.
Yeah.
You know, these clubs eventually, if you look at them, they have a very good recruitment system. So if we follow that recruitment system, you know, structure very, you know, pragmatically, not spending hugely, consistently going all the way, but I think they are programmed, you know, for a 3-year plan, I think, something like that, you know, because they are clubs that reason very conservatively, but also with a very clear vision of what they want to do. I think we can, but that would be a bonus, of course. We can get into Europe if we made the right signings, you know, the other signings that we cover every position that we have, because it's going to be a long season. It's not guaranteed that DCL, though, has the same level of performance. It's like a season. Same for Anton Stack. Yeah, fitness, especially the wingbacks. The wingbacks were absolutely squeezed last season because they, apart from James Dawson, they had no backup. And also the fact that Goodmanson had the hamstring problem shows that we need to sign, especially with Isaac Smith now going. to young boys in Bern, another backup in that position, because we didn't have one. We had Byram last season, of course, but I mean someone that around the 60-minute mark, 65, if Gudmundsson is absolutely our fuel, can be subbed in and can be really effective, same as Gudmundsson, as in the attacking wing-back position. Justin absolutely fine as the backup for Jayden Bogle. Big season for Bogle, because I think this will be a big crossroads season for him. But it's good to see some level-headed people at the club, especially the manager, because the manager, has always been the face of the club in good and bad times, especially when he took over the situation we were. So someone that calms the place, that is very clear, that speaks about ambition, but also plans out that ambition, very specifically. Like this season we want to do this, next season this, and in 2 years we want to do this. Yeah, it's a clear plan. So it shows also that they have talked, because otherwise it won't say that. He has no need to. He has no need to. But also shows that what's happening now, because we need to tie him down, with a long contract with us. So if he's speaking very openly about that, it shows that he wants to stay at Leeds for a long time. I think it will be, because it's been 3 seasons, 4 seasons. Yeah, it's already it's edging towards the top. The top.
If he finishes, Andrew Stats Dalton sent me this. If he finishes the upcoming season, he'll be at the club the same length of time Harold Wilkinson was, or he lost his job. So he's heading towards like top end, and I think he's already in the top 4 in terms of the Premier League's length of service right now, given the way the Premier League's going on. So yeah, let's talk about him briefly then Andrea, because we haven't talked a huge amount about him. I don't think the 1 year left on his contract is that big of a deal, because Marcelo Bielsa historically always signed 1 year deals. There's plenty of managers that work off a 1 year contract. So I don't think it's necessarily panic stations. It's not like a club is going to come in January, sign him to a pre-contract agreement and leave for a free transfer at the end of the season. So it's not the same as a player. Do you think the delay, and I think there's 2 sides on this. And also, by the way, I think both sides are actually justified in what they're doing. Daniel Farkes talked about matching his ambition. And I think he wants to see this transfer window play out, to see that ambition physically and actually see it being delivered in a practical sense rather than a theoretical sense of just saying like, oh yeah, we're ambitious as well, Daniel. But seeing it physically. And then from the ownership's perspective, let's just see how this season starts as well. And let's see where we are before you go. And again, this is not to criticize him, because he did a fantastic job last year. No issues for me moving into this season with him in charge at all. I think he's getting the squad that he wants. I've been very impressed with what I've seen in preseason so far. So very few issues for me at all. But with a ownership model where you're looking at going, well, his next contract's probably going to be a 4-year deal as well. Mm-hmm. You just hang on season 2 and just see how that starts off before you commit to that. And from his perspective, I don't want to sign a deal until I see what you're actually going to deliver me, so I can go and do that job. So you've got this kind of 2 sides playing a bit of tug of war at the moment, where you've got that middle ground still yet to be resolved. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. And he's not exactly, to me, talking like a manager that's looking for a way out. The signings the club are bringing in look like to be signings that he himself wants, because again, he's talked about elite level goalkeepers and centre backs, so clearly that's important to him. So it does appear that they're on the same page without actually signing a line or contract.
Yeah, I agree with all you said, because it also makes sense on both parties to see it that way, because eventually they will have the reasons, like, if we give you the squad that you want, will you be able to take this squad to the next level? Because last season the target was saying up. Now we want to improve the positioning of last season. We will have a better squad if we really sign all the targets that we want. So we will have even more depth. Will you be able to use the depth that you have? Will you be able to rotate? Will you be able to finally introduce those signings, consistently, or will you rely again on certain players that have shown that they were not ready for the level last season? You of course improved certain players, because certain players that last season weren't had their ups and downs, but I think overall they were improved. Like Aronson, for example, was improved. He wasn't that consistent in the second half of the season compared to the first part, but he improved. Tanaka, I think in perspective, It's still an unfinished product, with Tanaka, because it would be an elite championship player, 100%. He's a very good Premier League player, but he needs consistency. So there's another player that it would be a big season for him too. Same with Bogle. Can this player really repeat the performances of last season, or they have reached their peak, and that's all they can give you? But on that point, remembering what happened last season with the good start, then the bad run, he was really about to be sacked, before that Chelsea game, basically, and everything changed there, so they will want to see how we approach the season, the results that we get, if he gels the team that will assemble for him. I think if that's the case, maybe around November, something like that, if they see a very strong start of the season, they might, if we make a gap from the bottom part, otherwise it will hang on for longer. But I like Farke. I think he's a good manager. I think he's also underrated in terms of man management, because he was really criticized heavily for Matteo Joseph, Larger Ramazani, all that stuff. But for all the criticism that he received online on that, there were very little comments, fewer comments regarding how he improved Rotter, how he improved Somerville, how he improved Archie Gray, how he gave chances to Archie Gray at 16. Yeah, James. Even James Justin last season. Yeah, even James Justin last season, stuck this season too. He always played in a number 6 in Germany, in a different system. He played in a number 8. So another one. But we'll see. It's the both parties, I think they have trust in each other, but of course, with the target changing from just staying up, even finishing 17, to trying to do maybe a mid-table finish, that in that part, they will need to see if both of them are ready to get to be at the next step. Because the last time the manager was ready for the next step, Marcelo Bielsa, it was already time that wasn't ready for that step, for Leeds, just signing Firpo and then James and Christopher Clyson. So
it's already a better second season.
Yeah, it's already a better second season. We have already improved that, and I think looking at the way the market has been inflated, in comparison to what the fees used to be back then and how they are spent now, I think we spent better in all those fees compared to what we spent for Firpo and James back then, because we spent heavily on them. So in comparison to what we spend now, something like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens down there on the right hand side too, because I still have a lot of doubts regarding Dan James and Willy Gnonto, despite liking them both a lot as persons, and individuals. They're very, very well connected to the community. It's always good to hear from them when they do interviews, especially Willy on the one on Italy. But I still
he's grown up a lot. He's far more mature now. Listen to Willy Gnonto speak than a couple of years ago, which is
Yeah, because he also changed agents, at the start. You remember the first time, after 12 months at Leeds, he was 18 and 19, at the time. After one season, he still wasn't the finished product, he had some good moments, but his season was in the first one under Bielsa, under Marsh, ups and downs, same as Somerville,
Yeah.
And he wanted to leave eventually. Now I think he's been better advised. And he's also grown. He's also seen how Leeds helped him, because he struggled. Even in the Champions, he struggled. But I think as an Italian too, because I think he has very little chance to get back into the national team, despite Mancini being back as manager, And I don't want to get into that, because I have my thoughts about what happened with Maldini, Leonardo, Ranieri, Conte, all that stuff, Italian telenovela, we call that, TV soap opera, basically. But I think he has a very little chance, because I think we'll play with a 4-3-3 maybe, but he has ahead of him Zaccagni, Chiesa, I think will return. There's plenty of players.
If Chiesa gets a move.
He's not been playing. Yeah. But he said that he wants to stay at Liverpool because he wants to prove himself with Iraola.
Maybe Iraola plays him. Maybe Iraola gets more out of him.
Yeah, he's very English, Chiesa. He's very English because he grew up in an English school in Florence. So his mentality is more English than Italian, so I think he really enjoys living in England. So if he move to another Premier League club for me. He won't
I
return
wouldn't
to
say
Italy.
no. I
Yeah.
like him. I like him.
Yeah, the problem is,
All right,
mate, that a lot of injuries. That's the problem. It's always been the problem with him.
let's
After the
talk
ACL
about
that he
that. So,
did.
well, yeah, well, let's talk about that. Then let's move on from the ones that have come in and Daniel Farke, and let's talk about potential exits in the club now, because Nanto's been mentioned according to Zinni Boswell. Nanto, Pirou are on that potential exit list. We've seen a fair amount go out the door. Not for a huge amount of money, but we got rid of a lot of dead weight and we got rid of a few we didn't want to get rid of. Karl Darlow obviously heading off to that lot across the Pennines. Ilan Meslier going to Arsenal, both on free transfers. Funnily enough, was watching Arsenal's socials last night because they're playing in Dublin. Arsenal fans have been very happy with what they've seen of Ilan Meslier so far. They want them played ahead of Kepa, who had a nightmare against Betis last night. So they want him to play more often, which is very interesting. Jack Harrison's gone off to New England Revolution for a nominal fee for the biggest signing of his career, as he said. A reaction of his career is like pandering to the audience a little bit there, Jack. We've seen Isaac Schmidt join Young Boys in Belgium. Max Verber has gone to Schalke for a contract cancellation, which works out perfectly for Leeds, gets him off the books and no extra payments. Charlie Crew this week has headed off on a season-long loan with Walsall. And the ones that were probably just waiting to happen, Larry Ramazani, still a lot of talk about potential movements for him this summer. We'll wait and see. He got everyone excited last week with his social media, only to announce a training video of him training. That was it. That was the big reveal after deleting everything off his social media site. He's expected to go likely to Valencia if they sum up the cash, but they're going to wait at the end of the window. Joffe now has 3 championship clubs that are said to be interested in him according to the media. So that could happen soon enough as well. And then you have Joe Pirou and you have Willie Nanto. What happens with them? Pirou has played at the start of pre-season, but then when DCL and Metro were both fit, he got 0 minutes against Liverpool in that final game, which might be an indication of where his future lies at the club. Nanto being played as a 10 in a couple of those games on a more inside position, which I like to see because I think long-term, I think there's a number 10 in Willie Nanto because low centre of gravity, pretty nippy, can see a pass, decent shot with left and right foot. I think there's possibly something for him there in the future of his career when he gets a bit more experienced. But there's still a few to go. I think Pirou and Nanto, Joffe and Ramazani are the ones that will bring in the extra cash that Leeds might need if they want to try and bring in 1 or 2 more players this summer.
Yeah, and there's another one, I think, because looking at what we see in the pursuit of Shea Charles, now
Ilya
looks
Gruev.
close to Fulham, it's Ilya Gruev for me.
Yeah.
Because he's always been a professional, he has that ball
Great
club
pro.
mentality, Yeah, great pro. He has that ball club mentality. They're always like Moramovic, the one that I mentioned before, BL2. But for me, we need something better there. We need to improve. Charles, I like Charles, but I don't think he's worth 30 millions. Even 25 is too high for me. There's plenty on number 6 in the Bundesliga, even in Serie A. I always like Kate, of course.
De Ossa was linked yesterday, and then he goes and scores a banger for Betis last night.
Who?
Nelson De Ossa.
Oh, Nelson, yeah. Another one, yeah. Especially in La Liga, there was another one that I liked, but he moved to Saudi now. Samu Costa, the Portuguese one, would have been a good signing for me. But yeah,
you need to be careful now because you will set off another rumor in Italy if you mention any more players after Mandela Keita debacle a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I know. I have people have been listening to me like I am the Oracle of Delphi. Like in Attica, when I say a name, it pops up like a rumor. I don't know why, But now I get when we mentioned years ago Poyamparo, when the first season back in the championship, like 2 days later there was Leeds interested in Poyamparo. Now I get
Demirovic was another one.
Where it started. Demirovic, yeah, Demirovic.
And then Mandela Keita 2 weeks ago.
Schultz,
yeah. Forget him.
Too. Yeah. Now tomorrow we'll publish, on the Unfiltered Football the scout report from the number 10s. So there'll be plenty of new names, and we'll see names left and right,
Yeah.
But many were already present in previous scouting reports. So we didn't look to look farther this time. There were many players that we had already scouted, in the past that have improved in the meantime. So we included them again.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the thing, yeah, Gruev, Gnonto again for me as an Italian, as I was saying, I think he needs to move to, because he's not playing week in and week out. And
Yeah.
actually, I think, of course, we're starting with Okafor on the left, Wilson on the right, but I think we need. I want to see a right winger signing. It might be a right winger slash number 10, yes.
Yeah.
If we are looking to stay with a 3-4-2-1. But I think we need we've seen, of course, Pike Shaw. We've seen rumors. I won't even talk about Rafael because honestly,
a non-story. It's a
that's a
non-story.
non-story. Honestly, it's a non-story, and I want to urge people to think about also the fact that some players are good in FIFA, yes, and FC 26, but in real life,
He's very quick. He's very quick.
But he's very quick, but he's always ups and downs.
His end product's not.
It's very selfish.
Outstanding. Yeah.
I have some fans that support AC Milan. Some of them even had season tickets, And I remember that time when we have to defend, he never tracks back. He stayed there
But he's not.
The ball. Like,
he's not leaving Milan for no reason, Andrea. Like he's being offered to clubs, which means that the club and the agent are both agreed he's going. Now Milan aren't just letting one of their best players leave the club for no reason. Like there's thought process behind going. We can get a decent chunk of money for him and not necessarily miss him part of the squad. And he could be ended up going to Turkey, which is part one of the depth of your career before you go to Celtic.
Or the other club, Fenerbahce or the other club. So, yeah.
Yeah, odd one.
So, odd one. But yeah, I was always saying, I think we need more a right winger than a left winger, because of course I think it's established that Okafor is going to be the starter, after last season, trying to repeat what we did. So, imagine let's imagine we try to negotiate with, for example, Marcel for Pike Shaw. So Pike Shaw will say, okay, I played in the UCL last season. I played in the UCL the season before. Final was very good. Marcel, ups and downs because of all the turmoil, with the Zebi going, then Abib Baye coming in. Now they have Bruno Genesio. The club has problems, of course, as you know very well, Jer. But he started well in preseason. He scored 2 goals in 2 games from the left. So he will say, okay, I've played 2 seasons in the Champions League. I played in a club that was supposed to aim for the title with PSG, but didn't happen last season, for various reasons. So if I sign for you, I want to start. And what they will say, no, we have no offer for either of you. And he will say, no, I want to start. Yeah, exactly.
And they'll say, we don't guarantee anybody minutes. You got to earn it. Yeah,
exactly. But the problem is that now players, especially players that are playing in the UCL on other teams, they want to have guarantees, So he'll have other options if you want to go to the Premier League, and there's teams that have gaps there, that have vacancies, So he will say, okay, I want to go there, so I will play. I will play week in and week out, because for me it would be very, very wealthy, to have a competition on the left between Okafor and Pike Shaw. I love Pike Shaw, but it looks like a Europa League team, in terms of depth. Can we afford that? If we can afford that, if we can afford that, I'll take my hat off, But honestly, I think also Pike Shaw, looking also at the links, it's very, very unlikely. We need more on the right for me. We need a backup for Wilson more, because I think we need an improvement from James and Gnonto. No disrespect to them, because I like them, even Aronson too, if we want to classify him as a right winger. But I think we need an improvement there. We need a direct 1v1 winger that can be a direct sub for Ari Wilson,
And whip.
Pound for pound. Yeah.
It's interesting because we talked about Pajot this morning on the news again, and it's more of an opinion kind of piece that I did looking at the full situation. I mean, Marseille look like they're in an absolute financial meltdown if they don't sell players ASAP. Senior officials within the club think that they might get a regulatory relegation based on £105 million euro deficit that the club has got right now, because Longari, the former president, overspent. And we've been there, we've seen it. It's a weird situation where Leeds might actually benefit from getting a player from a club that's having a financial meltdown after all the years that we've lost players because of financial situations. But it's clearly one that they like. I still think it is one that they describe as a market opportunity, and I don't think they'd walk away from it. And I think from Daniel Farke's perspective, and going back to what we've talked about, Pajot is a right footer that can play on the left. Okafor is a right footer that likes to play on the left. But you do give yourself a little bit more fluidity with those types of players, and Harry Wilson can also do that on the right and coming in and be more direct on the left. So you could have a situation where your wingers could start swapping over during matches and changing the approach of the attack, where you've a Pajot or an Okafor going down the right hand side and whipping balls in for DCL, same with Harry Wilson on the left hand side. And the other side is Okafor's had injury issues, and he's also had limitations on the minutes he can play. So you've got an option there where you can play Pajot in certain matches that you want to start him in, play Okafor in certain matches that you want to start him in. You can rotate that squad. And what Farkes desperately needed since we've gotten back to the Premier League is a bench that he trusts and looking around the players and going, you're actually fighting for a starting position in my mind. So I have no problem putting you on after 50 minutes. There's no issue there at all. Where right now, I think he looks at the bench and looks at Willie Nanto and just thinks, you're not exactly what I want right now. So I'm going to wait and see how it is. So I think if you raise the floor, the squad by doing that, but it's a luxury. It's an absolute luxury to have a player like that, or Okafor just sitting on the bench, because you walk into most teams, and you've got them playing back up to each other. Or again, if he decides to ever do the three behind the one, you play Pajot or Okafor as a 10, which they can both do. Wilson can also do that. And again, you get that fluidity from a three behind that can cross over and replace each other in different positions. So it's an interesting prospect, but I think it's one for me where Leeds are looking at it and just thinking, well, if the finances get worse there, or if the meltdown goes nuclear on this, let's see if we can nip in and get him for cheap. Then you won't say no. But the other one that's interesting is Pavel Schultz, because he's been talked about an awful lot recently. He's obviously been missing out of the Lyonnais team. But they say he's injured. Fonseca said it's a knee injury, nothing more than that. Back involved with the squad soon. But he's also an interesting one, and far more of a 10 than a wide player.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is the fact that last season he played, I think, the majority of games after his work as a false 9 too.
Yeah, he plays a 9, yeah.
Yeah, he also played as a false 9, but I think his natural positions are left winger and number 10 for me, the way he plays. Because he's a very direct player, gets the ball, passes the ball, and attacks the space. He never stands still. He's always on the move. And there's a player there. Of course, he can also play on the right, but I think looking at the fact that on the left he can do what Okafor does. Attack the player, then turn inside, right, shoot, or pass the ball. But playing as a false 9 shows that he's versatile. So that would be, especially with Brandt not signing. That it would be one player capable. Of course, I always been the advocate of not doing that. But when a player is that good in every position,
multiple
you can
positions,
do that.
yeah.
In this case, I think Schultz can cover both at number 10, left wing, and less likely, but can do that. Less preferable, not less likely at right wing. So if you sign Schultz, you can have a backup for 3 positions, especially if Nyon or James are not going away. Same as Aronson, But yeah, there's a player there that ironically, for Lyon had the similar problems to Marseille last season. And certain clubs arrived and like vultures, and took the best players, and like Villarreal took Mika Utadze, another one that I mentioned, before, and he went to Villarreal to play in the UCL. But yeah, there's some good players like Tyler Morton, for example, another good one. I think that shows that it showed improvement. But they managed to clear the finances. Now they have Michel Kang, the owner also of the women's team. The London City Lionesses who have signed Alexia Putellas, for example, Mary Earps, signed plenty of top profiles, in women's football. So now they are more stabilized. I have doubts because eventually Marseille, when they won the title in 1993, I think 1992, I don't remember the exact year, when they found that they had tried to bribe Valenciennes, in that game with Burruchaga, I think it was. They were eventually demoted to League 2, Division 2 at the time, to League 2. But from finances, honestly, I remember what happened with Lazio in Italy. I really struggled to see the federation sending the second high-profile team to the second division in France. They were trying to negotiate maybe a compromise.
Hell of a statement,
what happened with I know what happened with Lazio. In 2004, they were absolutely crashing down. The government here, I think Berlusconi at the time, made a law called ad personam, in Latin. Not ad personam, it was called Alfieri, something like that. It had a specific name out of the legislator, at the time, not that persona. So it was a law specifically for that case that allowed them to basically take the debt, the heavy debt, and distribute the payment of the debt in various years, like in 20 years. And
Break it up into manageable monthly payments.
Yeah, last season Lazio was still paying the debt from that agreement, but but they knew that if Lazio was relegated or went bankrupt, it would have been riot in Rome from the Laziali, But that didn't happen with Fiorentina, because they allowed Fiorentina to go bankrupt in 2002 and restart from the fourth year, So you can see how Italy works, at times when the capital is in better consideration than others, But I think Marseille will be very difficult. But they will be forced otherwise to sell certain players. So Pacquiao might be one moving. Another one that I really like there is Igor Riley, If we are looking, of course, now Borna is there. I don't know what happened with him. Another thing, of course, because preseason is one thing. One player might look good in preseason, but we only judged him based on cameos, basically, last season. I think he wants to play more too. If you want a player that, especially with Rodon had some minor injuries last season, you need a player ready to be consistent and offer something similar to Rodon. I think Egan Riley, because he hasn't played a lot of minutes, last season there. I think he can be a good backup for Joe Rodon, especially homegrown to English. Also has an Irish passport, I think. Can be.
It does, yeah. Egan Riley. Yeah. Jesus Christ, he doesn't have an Irish passport. There's something wrong, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we even talked, me and Lockie, about a player, Paul Nebel, Faithful Minds, under 21 for Germany. As an Irish passport, so if you want another so-called, I don't like the term plastic paddies, I think, it was the term.
Listen,
that used
the Irish national team will take a plastic paddy any day of the week. Get them, as long as they're good at football.
Yeah, end of the day, they're Irish. They're Irish at the end of the day, because eventually they have maybe another
heritage.
So
there's heritage there.
They're Irish. They're Irish for me. Yeah.
We're everywhere. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Getting close to the top of the hour. We'll start to wrap it up, folks. Massive thanks as always for supporting. I could talk to you all night, Andrea. We really could. We'll probably be talking for the next hour off camera as well. But really appreciate you joining us tonight. We've covered an awful lot tonight. We'll get into pre-season stuff, or pre-season stuff, as in the predictions for the year. We've got the game against Manchester United coming up. I think it's next week in Dublin. I'll be at that game myself. And then we got one more friendly. The friendly this weekend against Leipzig will be played on 2 60-minute halves with half times or hydration breaks in the middle of them in order to make them 2 matches, essentially. So that'll be interesting. Then we're nearly there, and then start of the season. So we'll have all the predictions to the season, wrap-ups for transfer windows, and we'll see where Leeds go. We didn't get a chance to cover it tonight, but Leeds still need a left-back cover, still need a goalkeeper backup, still need number 9. They might get a number 10 if they're lucky as well. You can find Andrea at the Unfiltered Football Podcast with Ben Locklock Leeds. That link is down below in the description. And if you want to get stuck into their scouting guides, which are very, very good, the scouting report is probably the place to go for players you might not have heard of within 2 weeks of that report going out. Yeah, no doubt at all. Go check that out as well. It's a really good podcast from Ben and from Andrea, 2 lads that know the game really, really. Andrea, thanks for joining me, mate. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure.